You are listening to ASCP Esty Talk, where we share insider tips, industry resources, and education for estheticians at every stage of the journey. Let's talk, because ASCP knows it's all about you.
Hello, and welcome to ASCP Esty Talk. I am Ella Cressman, licensed esthetician, a certified organic skincare formulator, and content contributor for Associated Skincare Professionals.
I am Maggie Staszcuk, licensed esthetician and ASCP's cosmetology education manager.
And I am Tracy Donnelly, executive director of Associated Skincare Professionals. Yours truly, here I am.
Yay! Happy to have you,
I'm
especially
so
for this episode.
Oh,
because
these are my
It is
favorite.
Mailbag.
Woohoo.
And today we're here to talk about another Whoopsie Doozie commiseration with our fellow professionals. We've all been there, right? As professional and polished as we strive to be, inevitably, we are human and accidents happen.
Do you know how many people come up to me when I'm out there in the wild and tell me that they have their own Whoopsie Doozie story and they've been listening to your Whoopsie Doozies? Oh my gosh, I love it so much.
I love them too because it makes me feel better.
Well, it's just
We all make mistakes.
We all make mistakes.
that's real. And that's why you need insurance, that professional liability insurance. And I know a company who has a great one. It is Associated Skincare Professionals, ASCP, yours truly, $6 million policy, covers general, product, and professional liability insurance. Okay, that's it. Sorry. Go ahead.
So let's see if it would help cover this one.
Oh boy.
A broken ego.
Oh, maybe.
I'm calling this one what not to wear. Maggie, we can agree that in the spa setting that there are cute clothes and then there are functional cute clothes, right? Well, I think our first poster would also agree with us. So Skincare by Cheryl writes in with her Whoopsie Doozie statement. She says, I was wearing a new pair of pants recently and they were very slippery. All day I was sliding around uncomfortably on my stool. My last client, thank goodness she was a longtime regular, witnessed me trying to sit down, but the stool slid out from beneath me and I landed smack on my butt on the ground and then hit my head on the stool. Oh, and she put the hitting my forehead with my hand emoji. After making sure I was okay, she told me that I fell quite gracefully.
Oh, that's so nice of that client. So sweet.
Have you ever had a wardrobe malfunction?
Fortunately not. I think in every job I've had, there's been a very specific esthetician dress code.
I have to tell you, when you were telling that story, all I pictured was this stool just rocketing out, real slippery pants. That's a good one. Yeah.
Speaking of slippery pants, I had one where I had these, before pandemic, now I have a strict dress code of scrubs. Probably because of this, but I used to dress cute. I used to take pride in looking super cute, even though my clothes would be shredded, after a few weeks.
I would think disaster, get stuff all over it.
I would wear an apron, but still.
Oh, okay.
But I had these jeans, my favorite pair of jeans, and I must have worn them for a while.
Oh my God.
Because I went to sit down on my stool and I was like, oh, it's really cold in here. But what happened is they were the stretchy kind and they had just worn so much that finally
the spandex was no more.
They finally just peekabooed out.
Yeah.
And my skin was touching the stool and I was like, yeah. So then I had more clients after that.
So would you wear your apron backwards?
No, I just had to follow them.
Oh, I would have put my apron on backwards.
Go forward, I'll follow you. So now we have the intuitive esthetician. She writes in, I was working at the infamous Fast Wax Center. They allowed clients to be 7 minutes late for the 15-minute speed waxing service. First mistake, I was running behind. Whoops. My next client is a male for a back wax. This was also my birthday. I was working as fast as I could with caution. Well, I created my center strip going down towards the hips. I was pulling others as I waited for that one to dry. When I pulled it, I flung in midair out of my grasp and hit the client on the back of the head.
Oh my gosh.
Turns out my strip of hard wax was still tacky.
Oh no.
It got stuck on the back of his head.
Was he bald? Please tell me he was bald.
I was sweating horribly and I used oil to remove as much as I could. We got most of it off. And needless to say, I was late for the rest of my appointments. Thankful for the technique from this franchise, but I'll never go back to a place like that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just also too, I mean, a dude dealing with that. I mean, as ladies, we deal with like little mishaps that go wrong all the time. But how do you explain to a guy, like, just, hey, take this little bottle of oil home with you. You're just going to keep rubbing and rubbing for the next few days. And hopefully that wax will come off.
I got it in somebody's hair. Like
I did too.
In their hair before. Soft wax or hard wax?
It was hard wax. I don't know if I
Ooh.
shared this with you guys the last Whoopsie Doozie, but it was hard wax. She had big curly hair. And
No.
yeah, I was not paying attention. Normally I'm really good about twirling my stick, and it just dripped all off my stick and into her big curly hair. And I'm telling you,
Not just one little spot?
No. Like,
oh my God.
Okay. Maybe I should not share this on the podcast. Listen, this was like a moment of like, I really needed my insurance because I could have been screwed. So I did not tell her I dripped it into her hair.
Maggie.
I cursed and prayed to God and got out some scissors and started to cut that out without even telling her.
I think I remember you telling me this, and you were like pretending you're trimming her eyebrow hairs or something.
She heard the scissors
Yeah.
and turns her head, and I was like, hang on, I'm just cutting some strips.
Oh, that's right. So cool under pressure. That's who you
Two
are. You're
services,
Do
one
what I
appointment.
say, not what I do.
Layers.
Cool. Layers. You
Layers.
got layers.
I got soft wax in somebody's long,
Is that harder to get out?
Hair.
Or hard wax.
Well, hard wax you can flick out of it. I mean, it's both suck,
Uh-huh.
but it's like getting gum stuck in somebody's hair when you get soft wax.
Gooey.
It's like gooey, sticky. And if they go like this, it touches their shirt, it gets stuck to their shirt, and then they're like, gets stuck to their jacket and gets stuck to their car seat. Not good. Not good
Like
at all.
gum.
Mhm.
But you can use wax. I mean, you can use oil, right?
But it's tedious.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
tedious, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, so it's like, I can feel this poster's pain
Yeah.
in a 15-minute appointment to be like working the wax out of
Oh.
this guy's hair. Thank goodness it was the guy, because I'm assuming it might have been shorter hair. But yeah, not fun. Speaking of hair
Yes.
and wax stuck in it.
The Soulful Esty says, yes, I was using new free soft wax when I was doing a Brazilian many years ago as a new Esty, and the client was overdue for their service. Their hair was super long, and instead of rescheduling, I was out of chain, she says. We proceed with the service without trimming. I got wax stuck on her labia, and I could not get it out. I used the oil. I tried putting more wax over it. It became a big ball of curly hair and stuck wax. I was freaking out. The client was freaking out. It was horrible. She ended up going home. She called me later, relieved that she finally got it out with hair conditioner. I learned my lesson for sure, and it's never happened again from how traumatized I became.
Okay,
That
so
sounds
was
horrible.
the lesson like, hey, let's trim this?
Yeah, probably I would say.
Yeah, I mean, trim it.
Trim it and use pressure. You got to get that wax through the hair to the skin.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine sending
Oh.
your client home like that.
Some companies are like, some studios won't
Allow you to trim?
won't allow you to trim.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just how much that would hurt to rip out. I mean,
Mhm.
like as the client, I mean, if you've got long hair and it's not, you're just ripping hair out. Like you're not, oh.
Yeah.
I would, and it's also can kind of be messy to trim. So I would always put a strip with wax on it upside.
So smart.
And then I would move it over with my stick and then trim it. All right, you guys, now let's talk about double checking. Making a list and checking it twice. It encourages confidence, comfort, but also sometimes not doing it. If you're too comfortable, you make mistakes, as with our next section. So your Houston esthetician writes in, not my Whoopsie Doozie. Sure.
Mhm, sure, it's not.
But a coworker in training. We worked in a laser hair removal clinic where she was supposed to treat a man's ear hairs. I was to supervise her because she was still in training. Normally, we would drape a white washcloth behind the ear in order to treat the edges. So she did one ear just fine. Again, building your confidence, right? And then went to treat the other. And while she was pulsing the laser, the cold air blower that is attached to the laser and handpiece caught the edge of the washcloth and blew it away.
Wow.
She didn't stop pulsing the laser in time and proceeded to deliver 3 pulses, all burning the hair on the man's head and not his ears.
I bet it did. Nice bald spots.
Poor man looked like he had crop circles behind his ear.
Oh my gosh.
Luckily, he was a good sport and he wasn't mad.
How could he not? She is lucky.
She's lucky.
Yeah, because men get a little fussy about their hair sometimes.
I would be pissed.
I mean, well, and here's the thing. Part of it's permanently gone.
Yeah, if my man came home with crop circles, I'd be marching on over there.
Like, it could be, like, it might never come back all the way. You might have some crop circles for a while. Ooh.
How do you explain that?
That one definitely needs some liability insurance. I'll tell you that right there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So Beauty by Emily K says, I had a spray bottle that had alcohol in it, and it was kind of dark, and I couldn't see where the nozzle part was, and was trying to spray down something while a mask was sitting, and it sprayed all over the client. First time client too. That's a bummer.
I've done this, but like I meant to spray it at the client and it sprayed at my face.
Oh.
It's like, yeah, I mean, how many whoopsie doozies have we had where it's like the room was dark? I couldn't see. We need like LED bottles, I feel like, and LED lights on our stools. Like,
why? So you don't miss it?
yeah, that's still my favorite LED.
Maybe you should have ground effects under your table.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what they put on cars?
Yeah.
You could have ground effects.
But under the stool.
Yeah, under the stool and under the table and be like, ooh.
Well, this is another one too. Speaking of making sure before you go, the Cherry Doll Face writes in, I do permanent makeup and also permanent makeup removal. Now this one she's a quick thinker, quick on her feet.
Because she's got both angles happening.
When I first started doing removal, I didn't realize that the removal bottle looked almost exactly like my dilution bottle. So instead of diluting my pigment with the dilution solution, I had diluted with removal solution.
Oh, no.
So basically, as she's putting the pigment in, she's taking it out. I essentially did a full removal on fresh brows. When she came back for her touch-up, one brow was not so bad, and one brow was almost completely gone.
Oh my gosh.
I told her it was probably because she slept on one side of her face.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I fixed them, and everything was fine. But boy, I learned my lesson. I now keep both bottles very far from each other in my studio.
That is hilarious.
That is a good one.
That's a good thinker. She's quick.
That's a whoopsie.
That's a whoopsie doozie because that's no cheap service. Right there.
Right? No kidding, yeah.
And it doesn't feel good. It's not a feel good service.
Amanda and Bustamante, I'm guessing on that one. She says, this was an SD class boo-boo, but I was doing lashes for one of my fellow Esties, and the Mr. Spray bottle was the same as and next to an alcohol-filled spray bottle in the setup for whatever ungodly reason, and also had a green dot on it. No label. I just grabbed away because that's what I always do. Poor friend. I'm glad she had her eyes closed.
But WTF.
Right?
That was a stinger. Oh my goodness. It's the bottle confusion. It seemed to be a theme.
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Switch up your bottles.
Yeah.
Label them.
It happened to me once I had peels. And I was like, I think I'm going to do this kind of peel on somebody. And so I had them all out, lined out because the room's dark and I have my bright light. I reached behind me, get the prep solution, put it all over the face and realized it was the peel.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I had to quickly think on my feet for that. Whoopsie doozy.
Yeah. I have mixed up my tint solutions and I put black on this poor girl's eyebrows.
Oh my God.
And she was like very, very fair, blonde. And that was a whoopsie doozy.
I think that might have happened to me. Like, I didn't do it to me, but I think someone might have done that to me because I literally looked like Groucho Marx.
What'd you do? You just waited it out?
Well, what can you do once it's on?
Well, I went on the internet and I did a little hack and I heard that Prel shampoo is really, really abrasive. So you can either use
stripping
Prel
it a little
or,
bit, yeah.
you can use Prel or you can use dish soap. So,
yeah. I mean, anything like
Like
even
right
like
away?
your glycolic cleanser
No,
will
when I got
pull
home.
that color.
Yeah. And then another one that you told me, another little hack of fixing things that I broke or someone else broke on me is like when you get spray tan solution all over you, like in big drips creepy drips all over in between your fingers. Nail polish remover.
Yeah.
So I spray tanned my son the other day, and he did not care for how I did his hands. And so I was like, well, get out the acetone.
It works, man.
It does.
I never tried
Makes
it.
it very dry.
Yeah.
But I think permanent makeup freaks me out because I had somebody in my studio who did it. And she rented a room for me. And she did my cousin's lip liner. And my cousin came out. And I was just like, wide-eyed. I'm like, are you going to fix it? And she's like, why? What's wrong with it? It looks good, don't you think? And I was like, no. I don't.
No. You look like
anybody else, I would have rolled with it, but it was my cousin. I'm like, no. And this is my cousin who's like a violinist, and she's like pure as white snow. You know what I mean? Like she's very much like studious and calm and quiet. And I'm like, no, fix it. This is her first tattoo. And so my cousin, her brother said, of course, your first face tattoo would be something like that. I'm like, oh my God, fix it. His liner, fix it.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, speaking of fixing it, any way you slice it, make sure you are insured is our next section. The Blushing Gemini writes in. And this has happened to me.
I love these names, by the way.
I have cut a client during dermaplaning. I can say it has only happened twice and they were not deep. But one of those times, my client and I were chatting away while I was dermaplaning. She has a very expressive laugh, I can imagine, and also laughs at everything. So we were having a good time. Then I was doing her chin and she laughed and the blade got caught and made a tiny slice into her chin.
Oh,
I knew she felt it and I was so apologetic. She is a regular of mine now, and every once in a while she laughs and says, don't cut me when I dermaplane her.
Oh my gosh.
After that, I now ask people not to talk while I'm dermaplaning around their chin area.
I mean, how lucky. What if she would have needed stitches?
Stellar advice. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
We had a student at the school years ago during a dermaplane class that was holding the blade while chit-chatting and getting very animated and right across her wrist.
She slit her wrist?
Yeah.
That's a bad class. But oh, bulb.
Anything to get out of it. I think you have to respect those things.
They're knives. They're blades.
Scalpels.
Yeah.
And I think even dropping it on your foot, you have to be very, very careful and not having them talk. One time I accidentally took a chunk out because of similar, a jerking reaction, and it made a chunk. But
I was going to let you dermaplane me, but now I'm not. Sorry.
I'm better now.
Oh, good. Okay. Phew.
All right. The Skin Gal writes in, not a client, but a fellow coworker. I was lead esthetician, and with management owner out, I was head of staff. I'm with a client and hear a knock on my door. I excuse myself and they say another esthetician has cut themselves and is bleeding. I tell my client I'll be back in a moment and hang tight. I run back to the dispensary to see my esthetician holding her hand, and she says she was putting a high-frequency tube in the wand and it shattered and sliced right into her hand. I had to make a quick wrap for pressure, told her to get to the ER, and her client had to be rescheduled.
Those glass tubes, I can imagine. That's scary. I mean, and also even with just that, I think I love that the esthetician said, pressure, go to the ER. I'm just going to say this from an insurance standpoint. We talk a lot about, what to do if an accident does happen. When in doubt, you guys, tell them to go seek immediate medical attention. You are not a doctor. You do not want to pretend to be a doctor. It will not help a claim if it happens. The other thing, on another side note, on the opposite coin, don't offer to pay for it. I know that sounds horrible, but don't offer to pay for it. Just seek immediate attention. And if it's real bad, real bad, like someone's unresponsive, please just call the ambulance.
And do this despite what the client has to say.
Exactly.
Because this poster, she continues on to say that they told the client that she had to be rescheduled, and she still had the nerve to be upset about it. But she wouldn't let anybody else finish the treatment. So keeping that in mind of putting your health first and things like that.
Yeah.
Didn't they end up having to do surgery?
Probably. I mean, if it's glass, that can get real hairy.
Yeah. Because the glass is so thin, it just shatters and keep embedding deeper.
Mm-hmm. They probably had to go in to maybe get some of the fragments out. So it's not even just the lacerations.
It's a good, also something to consider about putting, I don't know how you taught your students, but putting a towel over as you're putting it in. We weren't taught like that, but something I learned along the way, just because I was scared.
Always wrap it with a towel because you're using pressure around very thin glass.
Yeah. So you heard it here, everybody. Lots of whoopsie doozie moments. We love to hear it. We love to let you know we've been there too. And now we want to hear from you. What are some of your most embarrassing whoopsie doozie moments? We won't tell. Wink.
We will.
Let us know. Reach out on our social media platforms, especially Instagram and Facebook, or by emailing getconnected@ascpskincare.com. We want to know all the details. In the meantime, thank you for listening to ASCP Esty Talk. For more information on this episode, or for ways to connect with Maggie or myself, or to learn more about ASCP, check out the show notes. And stay tuned for the next episode of ASCP Esty Talk.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like what you hear and you want more, subscribe. If you want to belong to the only all-inclusive association for estheticians that includes professional liability insurance, education, industry insights, and an opportunity to spotlight your 6 skills, join at ascpskincare.com. Only $259 per year for all this goodness. ASCP knows it's all about you.